Okay, here we are. Good morning. So let me give you the rundown. It's standard operating procedure until it's not. So when I say that, I'm using the 80-20 rule with a lot of this stuff, and here's what will normally happen. 412 is support. 412.50 was a prior important place. It could be a zone, but I'm not sure it's still as important. We don't know. I don't. So 412.50 to 412 is a bit of a zone. 412 is support. Below 411.75, it starts to get, I don't want to be in the long side because the door starts to open for 410. 410 is Jerry's new breakout area. Monday to halfway through Tuesday, the market trades around back and forth around 410. Jerome Powell's speech yesterday or at the economic Washington, D.C. thing, it spikes up, it comes back, dips below, but really that it came back to that same area. It spent a day and a half trading back and forth. And so until it's proven otherwise, that is another important spot. In jest, I'm calling it Jerry's breakout, but we get the point. We got to have some fun with this. 412 holds, 412.50 holds. They're going to want to run back to the pivot, 413.60, 50 in that neighborhood. Above there, we'll talk about it later. It goes, we'll start heading towards 415, but we're not anywhere in that camp. Below 412 does open the door for 410. So, understand that this is a scalp with opportunity. It's a scalp with potential if you want to buy in the zone at 412 to 412.50. And here's the thing. When I say 80-20 rule before, when I opened it up, normal stuff is in the overnight, they weren't wild. It was relatively tame, if you will. So not to say they can't fall through the trap door, but I'm going into the day with the awareness and the concept that at least to get things started, it's going to be somewhat range bound. And I'm thinking 412 is going to be somewhere in the vicinity of that lower range. And I think they're going to want to test the pivot. And this is my thinking. So if they run up to the pivot first, the whole 412 thing is off the table for a buy until further notice. But if they don't, then I'm interested. That's where we are. What's the high? 413.48. Now it's either the games people play or they're weak. And doesn't change 412.50 to 412. I like 412, give or take, maybe 412.10. I have it on the screen at 412.07 just for fun. 412.77 is the low. That's not my idea of 412.50 to 412, just for the record. So wasn't even thinking about buying it up there. I was looking closer to 412. At this point, they still haven't got to the pivot, which is interesting, but it's very quiet. The volume is light, and it's just quiet so far. Patience. They'll do something. If they start closing candles above the pivot, we're going to start targeting higher pricing, and we'll find a support area to buy in a pullback. Currently, I would say 413.25 is going to be some support if they can't get above the pivot and stay there. And again, as we discuss each morning in this current uptrend, I'm a willing buyer on a dip. I am part of the buy the dip crowd because we're in an uptrend and there is a buy the dip mentality and they are buying the dips and we are following the trend and we are just participating. That's what we're trying to do each morning. There's short trade, sure. Staying above 413.65, the door is open. It's just continuing to be that way. 413.25 is still support. Okay, so setting up shop, locked and loaded. If they came back to test the pivot and that secondary number, 413.25, I'll be in the trade. So just telling you what I'm doing. Now this is going to be an important spot right here because this begins to, if they don't hold here, around 413.25, then it opens the door for the lows. And then if the lows don't hold, then it opens the door for 412. So you need to understand the progression of the market. Now, what did they just make a low of? There's your quarter. Now we'll see if that was a test or if this is a failure. One or the other is happening. They start with a scalp with potential and we take it from there. What's a target? Back to 414 would be nice. Below the low of day, 412.77. That's going to change the tune of the long trade and they're going to have to come down to 412 and you could stay in and buy it down there. You could sell below, but beware of the ripping back in the other direction. Routine, what does that mean? Sometimes they spike the low and they rip it back up in the other direction, screwing over the people that are selling the break. And we see that over and over again. Just know the areas. Sometimes it takes time. I use the spider chart and you can use the corresponding ES. I'm in an ES trade right now. I'm just using the ES as the vehicle, but I use these spider numbers. Recapturing the pivot would be a good idea. If they recapture the pivot, it'll open the door for 414. It's only 4 points from the pivot, but the average for me in this case was lower because I bought it twice. I bought it down at 25 as well, 413.25. Now keep in mind, 414 is resistance from a short-term basis, but if they get back above the pivot, the door remains open for 415. Understand that. They're working on the pivot. So anybody can take any portion off wherever they want. I'm giving you the resistance points because I'm trying to hold for my first exit around that 414 area, if I can get it there. You know, you don't make them go all the way to a target. You front run a target. That's trading 101. You want to buy inside of a target. You want to buy with a spike of a number, but you want to sell in front of a number to make sure that you get a proper exit. You want to always sell into a run up like strength. You don't want to be chasing it back down because you missed the number. That's a bad feeling. It's like giving away money. All right, so most everybody should have like somewhere in the neighborhood of a scalp under their belt right now if they did what I did, bought where I bought. I'm trying to get them a little bit higher. This is it. I mean, you got the deal from a scalp perspective. Now just hold it. Okay, anybody participate in our little trade here this morning? How you doing with that? Tell me there were takers.
I took it down here.
You got it, Jordan?
I did indeed.
You got it. That's the point.
Got it.
So let's see. We got a little bite. We got a yes. We got a kind of felt the trapdoor was possible. What made you feel? I'd love to get that answer from you. What made you feel? That we got to get you out of that. I got a feeling. There was no such thing. Big spot below. They'll get there someday, but they're going to bounce first. Maybe they'll get there in an hour. This was a good spot. This is the trade setup we use over and over and over again. We trade around the pivot almost every day. Why? Because it works. You have to understand that, yes, there is a big spot lower, but that doesn't mean this isn't going to work. Now, don't make it go bad. Don't let it go bad on you, by the way, as this thing comes back down. Just by the way, we don't do that, right? We know. We don't let it go bad. They're coming back down. So now we're in the camp of low 412.77. 412 is still support. It's a bounce area with potential. If they're going to come up short of 412, it's going to be like by a quarter, right? 412 and a quarter in that neighborhood. But 412 is my number. 412.05, 412.08, 412.01, 411.96. This is the point, is the give or take. I just let them get there. It's a scalp with potential. Okay. I am a participant for a scalp with potential. So you got to look for maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 points, depending on, you know, how much tolerance you have for this thing to bounce around, because there's no real anything in between 412.77 and 412. So I don't know that they'll give you the whole 7 points or so right out of the chute. So you got to take something off, you know, just make it into a trade and then see what happens. Stack them, base hits. Put you in the Hall of Fame. That's the whole point. Don't try and get it all in one trade. You're not ever going to. That's not what you try to do. Once in a blue moon, you hit a double, triple home run. I've taken my first exit to scalp with potential, and I'm happy to hold it. I'm not going to let it go bad. I'm putting a trade in the system because it's an ES contract, and I'm not watching it, but I don't recommend you do that because they'll come and get it. This is for you guys, right? I'm just taking the trade to put my money where my mouth is. I like the trade, but I'm not trying to make $10,000 on this trade. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you an environment to be successful, and I want to take the trade along with you because it's the right thing to do, but I'm not in this for the trading profits, okay? I just reiterate that throughout the week because there's new people that bounce in and I get questions. Are you in the trade? Are you in the trade? Are you in the trade? You know, don't worry about me. I'm guiding you. Look at this. How about that rip? How about getting back to the pivot? That's what I'm talking about. Now you don't even let it get back to break even. You want to see if you could ride a piece of this back to the pivot, see if they'll give it to you, but don't make them go all the way if that's your last piece. So for example, you're taking a profit at 413 and a quarter, 413.30, 35, something like that, not 60. What do we got? Grant, nice.
I was on the trade over here as well.
Jordan, nice. Kevin, nice day. You got CPRI and the spiders. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of freaking takers. We had a whole bunch of takers.